Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about the cellular adaptations, and probably this is one of the most are some of the most amazing abilities of the cells, which are growth, adapt, and renew. Growth is probably the most fundamental process by which cells use complex organic molecules to build and replicate their living substance. If you see in early life, particularly during embryonic development and childhood, growth occurs primarily through cell division, which we call mitosis. And this leads to an increasing number of cells and the expansion of tissues and organs. And closely tied to growth, we have regeneration, which is the another ability of the body to replace lost or damaged cells with ones that are identical in type and function. And this process will occur in two main forms. First, the continuous regeneration, which is seen in tissues with a high cell turnover, such as blood cells or surface epithelium like the skin and the gut lining, and the cyclic regeneration, which you will notice on the uterus, and follows the arrhythmic pattern, especially on the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus. Okay, now when tissue loss results from injury, disease, or surgical removal, a different kind of regeneration will appear. We call reparative regeneration, and this healing response will aim to restore structure and function through the outcome though the outcome depends heavily on the tissue involved. The ability of a tissue to regenerate is closely linked to how specialized its cells are. The less differentiated a tissue is, the greater its regenerative potential. For example, tissues like the liver and the skin can regenerate effectively because their cells retain the ability to divide. In contrast, highly specialized tissues like the cardiac muscle and neurons have a very different and limited or even no regenerative capacity, making recovery from damage in these tissues in particular challenging. Now, when the tissues with strong regenerative ability face increased functional demands, such as the uterus during pregnancy or mammary glands during lactation, they will respond by increasing their cell numbers. And this adaptive response is known as hyperplasia, okay, or which is the numerical growth of the cells. It's a way of for the organ to meet higher physiological needs by producing more functional units. But tissues where cells can no longer divide, like the skeletal or cardiac muscle, here the adaptation will take a different path, and instead of multiplying, the existing cells will enlarge to handle the increased workload. And this increase in cell size is called hypertrophy or volumetric growth, which is a classic example of the growth of the heart muscle in response to chronic high blood pressure. Now, on the flip side, when tissues or organs are underused or deprived of stimulation due to poor nutrition, reduced hormonal signals, or even aging, what will happen is that the cells will shrink. And this decrease in cell size, number, or function is known as atrophy, which is this is a reversible process in early stages, but can lead to permanent loss of function if prolonged. Now, even more profound, is involution, okay, which is the process involving a significant reduction in the number of cells. And okay, the number of cells. It's part of the aging or developmental transitions. One example is the shrinking of the thymus gland after puberty, where much of its immune cells producing tissue will be replacing by fat. When cellular metabolism goes, let's say, I used to say down, okay, due to toxins, infections, genetic defects, or poor blood supply, cells will begin to malfunction and accumulate abnormal substance. And this state we call degeneration. Okay, while it's not immediately fatal, degeneration can impair tissue function and, if unresolved, may progress to cell death. And finally, we have the more severe cellular injury, which is called necrosis, which is the which we call death of the living tissue. Unlike programmed cell death, apoptosis, necrosis is uncontrolled and quite often triggers inflammation, potentially damaging surrounding health tissues, and it can result from acute events like infarction, which is the loss of blood supply, and trauma, or even overwhelming infection. So cells will constantly adapt to their environment through a spectrum of response from growth to death, and this process will reflect in some way the dynamic balance between health and disease, resilience and vulnerability. Now that you learned this, I will ask you to review the video, take the most relevant notes of the topics that I presented here, and what do you think about this topic? Can you share any other structure that pass through degeneration, hypertrophy, hyperplasia? Just share some knowledge with us as well. Okay, so write in the comments, and then I will say hi to you. Okay, take care. Bye bye.